As a church, it's really no secret that nowadays you need some type of graphic tool. I mean, we're printing off like flyers for community events. There's different types of connection cards that you print off. There's sermon slides that you put up on the TV screen, sermon graphics, social media posts. The list goes on and on and on. And so you need some type of tool for this. And the most popular tool now for churches right now, I would argue, is Canva, because you really don't need any kind of skill or expertise, and it's really, really fast. So let's talk about it. How's it going, everybody? My name's David. I'm the head video editor here at REACHRIGHT, and we like to make content that helps out churches and ministry leaders all the time. So if this is the kind of thing that interests you, make sure to hit that like button and then subscribe so that you're notified every single time that we release a video. Now, we've actually made videos on Canva in the past, but really those were just to give you some ideas of what you could use Canva for. Today's video is really going to be taking it slow, breaking it down, and showing you kind of step by step how you use Canva and why it's so beneficial. So this isn't going to be the flashiest video. This is going to be really helpful for the people that want to know more about Canva and really want to get a deep look at it. So we'll get started here in just a sec, but really quick, if you're not really sure what Canva is still, or wondering why is it even beneficial for churches, I'll show you a quick example of how fast this is. Let's say you have something like a food drive coming up and you want to hand out flyers in the community. We can go up to the template search, type in food drive. It'll come up with thousands of examples, maybe not thousands, but at least 100 every time I've tried it. I like this one right here. So let's say I'm gonna click on this, customize it, boom. Obviously, this looks good enough at a glance, but it has things that are part of the template, like more information at really great site. I could change this to my church's website, to whatever that is. Let's say it's, I don't know, Grace Church. And then I don't want this logo here, so I can delete all this. But I do already have my logo loaded into Canva, which is REACHRIGHT's logo. So we can drag this in here, resize it, put this in the top right. And then let's say I want to change the colors even. We can go to design, styles. I have all my brand colors loaded in here for REACHRIGHT. So I'll click around until I think something looks good. I think that looks pretty good. We could use that right there, change whatever other text we want, and we're done. So now think about that speed and ease of use when it comes to things like the social media posts you want to be posting all the time, different sermon graphics you want to make, things that go up on the screen while the pastor's talking, maybe during announcements if you want to do it that way, connection cards you want to print off, community flyers like we just did. There's so many different examples that you can use Canva for. So the first question that people usually ask me about Canva is it really worth it? And as a church, guess what? You can get the pro plan for free. So yeah, it's worth it. Everything I'm going to show you today is under REACHRIGHT's account. We are not a nonprofit or a church, but we do have that same pro subscription that is available for churches for free. So you're gonna be able to use everything that you see today. If you don't have the pro plan, but you wanna follow along with this video like right now, they actually do have a free plan that you can sign up with and kind of test Canva out with. There's a lot of features you won't be able to use, but you'll at least kind of get your hands on Canva and get familiar with it. But if you wanna get the pro plan for your church, just Google Canva for nonprofits, or you can go to the URL on the screen right now and actually apply through this. Now, from what I've heard, there's not really many churches that have had issues with this. I mean, my church got approved right away, but there are some churches that found themselves to not get approved for this, and all they really did was reach out to Canva and just say, hey, not sure why we weren't approved, and they were able to work with that team and actually get approved. So I haven't talked to anybody that has like failed at getting Canva Pro for their church. It might not happen right away, but you just reach out to their support team and it sounds like they usually can get it done. But you can check their eligibility guidelines on this page and you can apply as well. Now we'll move on with the rest of the video for how you use Canva Pro, assuming you have it. All right, so this is our homepage. This is Canva Pro membership. You've already seen one example of how you would make something really quick, but something I wanna touch on is the reason why Canva is so helpful is you can actually kind of set up your brand, which you've seen examples of already a little bit. And the reason why that's useful is you want all of your visual elements of your church to kind of be consistent, right? If you're printing off flyers and welcome cards and everything, they should all kind of look like they belong or they were made by the same organization, in this case, the same church. When I started using Canva, I thought it was so cool that you could have all these professional looking products and I would make them and most of it would appear on our social media. And what I found was after about a month or two, it was a little bit noticeable that it seemed like there was like 50 different people posting to our social media randomly because nothing really matched or looked the same. It all looked nice individually, but it all looked like it was coming from random people with different senses of style. So I didn't realize that you should actually be utilizing the fact that you can set up your branding in Canva, and that will help everything you do from your social media to the actual in-person printouts to be consistent across the board. So let's start with our branding and show you what that's all about. So again, this is our homepage right now, and if we go to the left-hand side, you'll see this section called Brand. If I click on this right now, it might say something like create a brand kit for you if you don't have anything set up, but we have REACHRIGHT's brand kit already here. So I'm gonna click on that and it will open up. And what you'll see right away is all of our logos, our colors, and then if we scroll down a little bit, our fonts. So what you can do is obviously upload these, but you wanna make sure that in your logos specifically, you're uploading PNG files that have that clear background. So when you're making things like flyers and you drag in your logo, it doesn't have its own background. You can just drag it on top of whatever you're making. As far as your brand colors go, Canva is really useful. Unfortunately, I can't show you here because I'm not like the owner of the account. I'm just a team member on our account, but you can actually add whatever colors you want to the branding and it'll give you the hex code of what that color is, which is really helpful if you've ever designed anything. But not only that, it will actually give you suggestions on what colors look good together. So if you're starting from scratch, if you want to actually make your church's logo with Canva, you can do that. If you want to make your brand colors with Canva, you can do that, and it will suggest what kind of things actually look good together. And then on top of that, you can also be installing things like your fonts. This has been the most helpful tool for me, is having all the different font combinations, because I have a hard time knowing what looks good together. I mean, I'm colorblind for one thing, which doesn't help with the colors thing. But when it comes to fonts, I'm just not a designer. I'm a video editor, but when it comes to designing, I need all the help I can get, which is why I love Canva. So getting things like your fonts, your colors, your logos all loaded in here really helps it so that when you get a design to look good and it's like 80% of the way there, you can kind of refer back to your brand kit in Canva that's implemented in the design tools and then just kind of bring it full force to that 100%. Okay, this looks like something that belongs to be within my church, for example. So that's why we start with that. You can set up your brand kit first before anything, and it will make all of the following steps way easier. Something that we haven't even used here at REACHRIGHT or set up yet is you can do things like your brand voice, photos, graphics, icons. There's so much more that they want you to kind of implement to just make it that much easier for you. So spend some time in your brand kit and really actually make it useful for you. Now, I mentioned that I'm just a team member on REACHRIGHT's Canva Pro account, and that's something to be aware of. Is it's actually really helpful to have more than one person use Canva at your church. You can add up to 5 people, I believe it is, on your Pro account. I think if you want to add more, you just have to talk about pricing differences, but by default, I believe it's 5 people that you can add on there. And so it's really helpful if you don't have like a church designer or if multiple people have access to the social media of your church and they all want to be posting things, but you want everything to kind of look the same and consistent. You can add people onto the team. They can have access to the exact same project. So somebody might put all the information together. Maybe they are the ones that organize the event and they have something that like looks pretty good, but they don't want to mess with all the colors, fonts, and everything else. So you pass that off to the designer and say, hey, look in Canva, open up the project and work on this. I have all the details. Can you just kind of finish it up and make it look pretty? That's something that you can do easily in Canva. And on that note, within your branding, since that's still the section we're in here, if I go to the left and I go back to brand kits, you'll see this section called brand templates. I don't have anything loaded here, but if I clicked on brand templates, what's really cool is, let's say you have some kind of design that is reoccurring, okay? Let's say it's some kind of weekly newsletter or some kind of weekly flyer that you have to print off, where information on it does change quite a bit, but it's not enough to just create from scratch every single time. It's consistent enough that way. You can have a brand template and load it into here, and then somebody can actually like reference back to the brand kit when they go in here and just click on that brand template for that weekly printout or design that they need to make and just go from there. It'll be even faster than using Canva from scratch. So that's why I started with the brand kit or the branding side of things today, because once you have that set up, it makes all of the following things you can do that much easier. So we're back at our home page now, and let's say that we actually want to create a design. Let's use Canva like we're talking about, right? You can either go up to the right-hand side and click create a design, and then it will give you all these different templates depending on what you want. A document, a whiteboard size, Instagram post, a flyer portrait, Instagram story, the list goes on. And what's nice that I want to point out is as you're scrolling through these options, when you have one highlighted, it will actually give you the dimensions of that if you're curious as well. So you can actually find out what the exact dimensions of a design would be or what it's suggested for what you want to use it for. You can also not just be locked into these options though. You can import a file and it will kind of go from that file's dimension size, and then it'll load that file into your design as well. But you can also go to a custom size if you know the exact dimensions that you need for a specific design. And again, if you don't know, or if you use some kind of dimensions a lot, it will show your recent dimensions used down here, which is also very helpful. But how I see most churches using Canva is just straight up searching for any kind of design that they want to use. So let's say that we want to make connection cards that sit on our chairs for people to fill out when they attend service. Let's just see what comes up. I've not actually tried this connection card. Let's try welcome card. I wonder if there's going to be a better option that comes up here. Welcome card. This looks a little bit better actually. These are more like cards. I actually think we can roll with this one. So this is that vertical format. So let's go to customize. Now this obviously looks like it's more for a wedding, but let me show you how easy this is to kind of change up. Like I can take this welcome text, right? Yeah, okay, we do have the text selected. And then I can go to the font in the top left-hand corner once it's selected. And I can obviously change it to whatever font I want. But again, since we have our brand kit loaded in here, I can go to REACHRIGHT's font, which they use Railway, or we use Railway. And let's just say that we were a church. I'm gonna straighten this out, make it a little smaller, and then it snaps into the middle, so it's actually at the top here. And again, I'm not a designer, so maybe this won't look the best, but it's gonna be pretty close. I'm gonna go back to our brand kit and add our logo on here so it looks decent. That's our white one. I don't want the white one in here. Let's grab the black one again, and we'll resize it. We'll put it in the corner. Welcome. And then obviously I would change whatever this text is to, I don't know, whatever I would say. But I would say things like name, email, phone, and prayer request, right? Something like that. You can actually drag this in here. We'll realign it so it's all on the left-hand side. Maybe even space it out more so they actually have some space to write. We can even put a little bit more spacing in. And then center everything. See, and as you're designing, you're gonna kind of just see ways that you can adjust it to make it look better. Like I'm doing here. Like so. And then you can do something like this where they have different elements that you actually add to the design. So if I go to the top left-hand side here and I go to elements, there's all different things that you can obviously add in here depending on what you want. So I just want a line that people can actually write on, okay? So I obviously search for line, but then if I go to shapes and you drag this in, I want this dotted line. I think that actually looks nice on here. And then you can resize this line to whatever you want. And then I'm gonna hold Alt on my keyboard and select it again to duplicate it and do the same down here. And then maybe since it's a prayer request, and then I don't want them to have to try to feel like they fit it on one line, we could do something like that. Very basic. Again, we don't want this Olivia and Jonathan at the bottom, but we could put our website at the bottom, for example. So I'll go to text on this left-hand side here. We can go to text. We'll add a subheading. I think that would work well for this. Drag it down here. We're gonna change the font to whatever I want. And then we'll go to our website. Why not? And make sure it's center. Boom. that's a pretty basic welcome card. Let's say we were a church. I'd be happy with that at least to print off and get started, right? But you can spend some time and really make it look as good as you want. So again, that was just a quick example on how to actually customize a design template. But I think for a masterclass, we should actually walk you guys through the actual designer and all the different tools and what it can do. The most common request we got in the last Canva video off the top of my head had to do with the different announcement slides that you could put up on the screen pre-service. So to make those to go up on the TV, I know that that needs to be something that's 1920 by 1080, okay? So from scratch, no design templates. I'm gonna go up to create a design at the top right-hand corner here. And then it asks me, what am I creating it for? I already know my dimensions, so I'm gonna go down here to custom size. I'm gonna go to 1920 by 1080, which is in my recent, but if it's not in yours, you can obviously type 1920, let's just do it. 1920, 1080, and then create new design. So now we have a completely blank design from scratch. And if you really wanted to, it knows that we're making a 1920 by 1080 design already, and it has templates for us to use, but now we are in the actual design UI to walk you through slowly. So let's just start from where I'm pointing to. We have this design tab by default being the first thing in your toolbar. So as I mentioned, this is a tab that is dedicated to kind of getting you started and doing a lot of the heavy lifting from scratch. So it's going to give you templates right off the bat. It knows that you're making something 1920 by 1080, which Canva's default for that dimension size, I believe is something like a presentation. So if you scroll through here, you can see a lot of these designs. And a lot of these kind of look like something that would be a announcement slide that I would put up on my church. But if you notice as I'm scrolling through here, like if I just hover over one, for example, it shows me that it actually has 15 different slides within this template, okay? So what I'm thinking is for this design, I don't wanna just make one announcement slide. I actually want to make a few. I want to do like, let's do a lost and found, for example. Let's do a slide that advertises our small groups, and let's do a slide that advertises our worship night. Let's do like 3. So you could actually go in here. I think I like the way of this looks better. So this is like, it gives you 14 different slides. If I were to click on this, it's going to load up all different 14 slides, and you can actually just pick the ones that you like the most and only do 3. Or you can apply all 14 pages to add to this design. But I like the front one, and then I'm gonna add another page for our second slide where I like, let's say this one. And then I'm gonna add another page for a third slide, and let's say this one. So obviously, between these 3 slides for our announcements, we're not making anything for a business project, and we don't have anything about statistics here, but we're going to change all that, right? But that's really the design tab over here. That's what you're mostly gonna be using it for, is different templates, okay? Now, the other part of the design tab is styles. If I click on styles, we have our brand kit available at the top, which means if this already said everything that we wanted, again, I don't wanna like jump ahead and design these perfectly and then just show you, be like, we're done, because this wants to be a masterclass that breaks down every tool you can use. But let's say that this was already done, right? Let's say we said this was, I don't know, worship nights. And then again, for today's example, I'm using REACHRIGHT's website. And then let's say this wasn't even here. Let's say that is good enough for our announcement slide for worship nights. I know we would probably want to add a time and a location, stuff like that. But let's say this was done. Since we're in this design tab, we go under styles and our brand kit is at the top. If we click on brand fonts, it changes every single text element within our design to our fonts, okay? So that's our fonts. I'm gonna change this to some capital letters. I just think it looks better. And then the other much more helpful thing that I think is cool about the design tab for these styles is your brand colors. Because if you click on this, it's going to shuffle all of the element colors within your design for your branding colors. So it's a really quick way to be like, what looks good that is actually our brand colors, and just shuffle them all around. This specific design, I can already tell, it's just the elements within the design. So these kind of like DNA looking strands on the sides, the helixes, I don't know what they're called. If I click this, it's just shuffling the colors of those, but that is a really helpful tool, I feel like. Like this would be good enough if I just added some information, I feel like, and just mess with it a little bit more. But you can see, if you don't want your brand colors and you just want colors that look good together, I'm just kind of scrolling down in here and there's different color palettes. There's even different font sets that you can use if you don't know what fonts look good together. And you can kind of mess around with all of these. And these, I didn't even notice this until I clicked on it. These are different colors and font packs. So if I'm clicking on this, not only is it changing the colors around, it's changing the fonts as well, which I think is just, I don't know, it's really cool. It's cool how easily you can just shuffle around different designs. So again, I just kind of was messing around, clicking around until I thought it looked good, and we'd be good from there. So that's the design tab, pretty easy. And if you like a specific like font and color design, you can go down here and click apply to all pages, and it would change all of these pages to have that same font style and color style of that slide. All right, let's move on to the next section, which is the Elements tab here. If I click on Elements, this is probably the most used section for Canva for me. I make a lot of YouTube thumbnails, and so I need a lot of different elements in my design. And what this is simply if you want something in your design that you think in your head, you can probably find it in Elements. They have things like graphics, they have shapes, they have different photos that you can use, and different just little parts that you drag into a design to help. So I really like the clean look of this, but for the sake of this example, let's say we actually want some representation of worship happening. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up into Elements and type in worship, okay? So you have like graphics that you could drag in here, right? Something like that if you really wanted to, but I think, or like that, the worshiping hands, you can just click see all here and it'll have all the different like graphic elements. But I think for something like this, what I'm going for is a photo in the background. So if I click on these like worshiping hands, it drags it into my design. I'm gonna make it the size of my design and then put it in the background, okay? So it's like this. I think that looks pretty good actually. And what you can do with this photo actually highlighted is you can go to this More tab, and then you can go to, I believe it's Send to Back. Is it Layer? Yeah, under Layer, Send to Back, boom. So this is all the way in the back now. And I know you can't really see the worship nights, but let's just get creative now and actually kind of mess with this. With the photo highlighted, I know it's in the background and I can actually see everything that I can do with the element that I dragged in. In this case, again, it's a photo at this top toolbar. You've noticed me go up here a couple times during this class and it's always going to change. That's why I haven't spent any time on it, because it's kind of always going to be different depending on whatever you have selected in your design. For this one specifically, I'm gonna make it a little bit more transparent. So again, with this photo selected, I can actually go up to transparency and actually make this a way more transparent in the background. Maybe something like that. And then click off of it and boom. Now it's just a photo in the background for worship nights. I think that already looks way, way better. But again, we could even go further and select it and then do things like adding effects to it. So now with whatever element you add in again, you can go to this toolbar and see what you can do with it. With this photo specifically, I can go to Edit Image, and then it's going to actually bring up a bunch of different things that you can do. You can have this different adjusting tab, which I'm actually gonna go to first to really kind of mess with it and change things like the brightness of it, right? Make it really bright. You can have heavy contrast, which I actually think looks really good. So I'm gonna add heavy contrast and actually drop the brightness. That looks really good to me. You can mess with the highlights and shadows if you want to. You can mess with the black point. You can have different vibrance or saturation. If you want it like a black and white photo, you can completely kill the saturation. You can mess with the sharpness here. That looks pretty good, I think, actually. Maybe right there. And then you can do like a vignette if you want, right? There's all sorts of things that you can do in this adjusting. Now, going back to the default tab that it started on, again, remember we're just in the edit image button here. These effects that you can mess with are really, really, really useful. And what I wanna do is simply just blur the image. So that is an effect, and just give me a second. Oh, it's down here in effects, this blur option. So if I go to blur, I can either just blur parts of the image with this brush size, or I wanna do the whole image as it says right here. So whole image, intensity, I wanna blur it about that much. Perfect, so I'm gonna go back. Look at that. It's just enough in the background, but it's not bringing too much attention to it. I think it looks pretty good. Now, I don't want to leave elements just yet because it really is probably the piece that you can spend the most time on. So it does have things like photos that you can use, as we already did. It does have things like these graphics, as I touched on, that you can just kind of search through as you wish. But the shapes are pretty useful. So under shapes, if I were to drag in just a simple line here, right? Like, again, I just found this right here. If I just click on that, it's now in my design, and I were to drag this in, this is now a line that you can adjust the angle of and the length of as well, which can get really nice when you want to, like, let's say we want to underline reachrightstudios.com down here, and we want to make sure it's just the right length. You can really kind of fine tune like that. So I'll just leave that in for the sake of the example. And you can do the same with like a circle, like we just dragged in here, right? You can make it like elongated if you want. You can make it as long as you want, or you can change the color of it. You can change the border style of it if you want. You can change the font size that's going inside of it for this example, apparently. And again, if you want to expand this or see more options, you can always click see all under a category. For shapes, for example, here's all the different lines we can use. Here's all the different shapes we can use. I think that's actually one of the more hidden helpful tools. You can add videos down here as well if you want to do that instead of a photo. The charts are kind of cool if you do have some type of statistic that you want to show. Maybe it's like a church membership meeting and that you need slides for. You can actually have the exact percentage of this chart that's dragged in here. Like attendance for our worship nights, maybe. Let's say it's gone up 65%. I can enter that in right here. I can adjust this to be, I don't know, about that big. Let's keep it in the corner here. I actually am kind of curious. Oh, there it is. We can turn on the percent label and have 65% there if we wanted. And then we just add some text and say attendance down here. That doesn't really make sense, so I'm not gonna do it, but that's one of the cool elements you can have under charts. And they have all different types of bar charts, line charts, pie charts, arena charts, or area charts rather. There's a lot that you can do in elements. And you can also go into frames. I think this is a slept on feature as well, honestly. So you have basic shapes, film and video, paper. Let's say I want to do, I don't know, something with paper. That might actually look kind of cool down here. So I'm going to add this frame. And I know it's just kind of this generic clip art looking stuff with clouds and grass and sky and stuff like that. But if I go back into elements now, and let's say I were to grab a photo of worship. Again, I'm going to go to worship. I can drag a regular photo in here, like this, and boom. Now that photo is within the frame of like torn paper, and you can just drag this wherever you want. I think that actually looks kind of cool. I could even edit this photo now, go to adjust, drop the saturation if I want to make it black and white and make it look really cool. Boom. Looks like it fits right in. So still in elements now, we're down to frames. You can have different grids with even more frames if you want. There's mock-ups if you want to do things that look cool on like a t-shirt or a phone, for example. They have that option available as well. But something that I think people don't realize is there are more graphical elements under the graphics that we talked about earlier. For example, if I just wanted some smoke on this image for kind of just a texture sake, I can go into graphics. I typed in smoke, and there's all sorts of like smoke elements we can do here. I can drag this in. That already looks cool as is, right? I can drag it really big. Boom. Looks like it kind of belongs, right? So there's a lot you can do with elements, honestly. Like let's say it's not even completely done and we just think it needs a little bit more texture. I'm searching for texture in elements. I can go to see all in graphics, and I can look through here. This plastic looking texture could actually work really well. So I'm going to add it on here. I'll make it full size, so it's the length of our image here. And I'm going to make it just a little bit more transparent. Something like that, right? There's just so much you can do in elements. So that's by far probably the longest part of the video right there. So let's move on with our little toolbar here on the left-hand side. The next one is going to be our text. And I think we're done with the worship nights for now. Well, actually, we need to add a time and a place. So this is perfect. We can do something as simple as add a text box, and I'll actually put it right smack dab in the middle of our design to kind of move around. We can resize it, type whatever we want, right? Friday's at, I don't know, 7:30 for our church. 7:30 p.m. if I can type. There we go. Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Put that in there like that. And it doesn't really look right? It doesn't look like it fits. So I'm gonna look at whatever font we used here, which was League Spartan. If I highlight nights here, it will show me up in this toolbar whatever properties are of that element, right? So I found out this is League Spartan. I can click on our Fridays at 7:30 here and go up to the font. I'm actually gonna search for Spartan. Yeah, there it is, League Spartan. Boom, same font, just like that. And again, if you have a brand kit or if you want everything to be your branding, your fonts that you could reference back to are right over here. Otherwise, they do have font combinations that you can kind of scroll through and pick within here as well, which is really nice. Now, something new that Canva has implemented is this thing called REACHRIGHT. It's basically a mini chat GPT. So if you needed just a section of a design with some text, you can see it right here on screen. They simply just went in here and they typed REACHRIGHT, and then they said, write 3 points about how clouds form using grade 3 language, I believe that said, and it gave them a little like chat GPT filled out content piece. Moving on is our brand kit. I kind of already mentioned this at the beginning, but once you have your brand kit filled out and you're within a design element like this, you can actually go through and look at your logos for reference, your colors for reference, your fonts for reference. It's all right here. This is where you find it. That's why it's so important to set that up first. The next section in our toolbar is uploads. Now I'm gonna have some crazy images here because I make a lot of YouTube thumbnails for REACHRIGHT, as you can see. But if you wanna add your own elements in that Canva doesn't have, if you want your own photos of your pastor, for example, or people, or we have like Ian from REACHRIGHT. Look, we could put him in here. Worship nights, and he's pointing right to it. This is the section that you would actually upload your own photos if you wanted to do it that way. And what's cool about this is if you do have photos of people in your church that you want to use and you want them to be more of like an element of the design itself and not have the background of like his room, for example, because this doesn't look very good. I can actually kind of blow him up. Since he's pointing, we'll do this. It's a little hokey looking since he's pointing, but we'll try to position him appropriately because of that. So if I have him in here, I can drag him in as a photo that I uploaded. And again, with that uploaded, an example that we can do is we can go up to edit image now, right? Click edit image. And one of the effects under effects that we can do is the background remover. If I click this, boom, it removes the background. And now it looks like Ian is just pointing to the fact that we have worship nights at REACHRIGHTstudios.com. We do not. Don't come to REACHRIGHTstudios.com Fridays at 7:30 p.m. expecting a worship night. But regardless, we can also edit him a little bit more than that. And we can do something like a shadow. This is usually what I do for our YouTube thumbnails, for example. If you wanted to do this kind of thing for your church's YouTube thumbnails, go to shadows, and then you can click on any of these. I like to do the outline, and then I can change the thickness and the color of the outline. I like to do white and just add like a stroke around his body and his finger there. And yeah, it's just done like that. So yeah, it should be noted that even with your own uploads that you put into Canva, you can actually edit them and put multiple effects on them. That's really what I wanted to show there. Sorry, Ian, I don't think I'm gonna keep you for the final cut of this Worship Nights graphic. Moving on in our toolbar, we have the draw section. Now, truthfully, I don't use this one very often, but I would imagine that if you wanted some very specific design or kind of template that you wanted to make, you could actually go in here and use their different tools that they have for drawing. I gotta be honest, I can't imagine you being very good at drawing anything, no matter how skilled you are, with a mouse and just a cursor drawing. But maybe there's something really specific you want to try to make. They have this drawing section, I guess. The next section is the projects tab. And this is just a reference to any existing projects that you have in Canva that you want to reference while in this design. So let's say we're making these presentation slides for our church and we want to advertise the food drive for our members to see. We could actually click on that little flyer that we made earlier. Again, it's right here. And then it'll ask us, do you want to add this template as a new page within this project? And I'm going to say, yes, add as a new page. And boom, look at that. Now it has it basically already built in for us to be put into our announcement slides. We'll have to adjust some sizing and everything, but that's how easy it is. You can make this food drive flyer with its own sizing and dimensions, and then make a whole new project for your announcement slides and actually just add it straight from this projects tab and put it right into the same sizing of your announcement slides. Now the next section is the apps category. I gotta be honest, I've never messed with this tab, so I don't feel confident on covering it that much. A lot of this looks like what we've already covered. The photos is in elements, for example. The videos are in elements, for example. But it does have things such as bulk create, where you can apparently enter in things like spreadsheets, and it will create designs from those, from what I understand. Don't quote me on that, but I have not messed with this tab too much. But again, that's something that you can mess with once you do have the Pro subscription. So that's it for the toolbar on the side. Pretty much everything else that you would do in a design section of Canva is going to be things that just come to you as you're messing around. Like for example, the whole layer aspect of a design. If I were to bring in anything from elements, I don't know, it just needs to be really simple that we can actually see. Let's say we want to do a photo of worship again. That just keeps coming to me. Here we go. This is a very contrasted image now. Let's say this is kind of something that we want in front of our letters for some reason. I already know that it's a hotkey of Control and then the end bracket. I can keep tapping that and it'll bring it forward and backward. So that's something that's just gonna come with time. If you don't know the hotkeys, that's fine. You can go to these 3 dots and it'll tell you everything that you can do to kind of mess with an element within your design. So you can align it, you can mess with the layers, that's what I was just doing, and it tells you what the hotkeys are right here. You can even show all the layers if you want, and it will tell you, and you can drag these around if you're more of a visual person. You can also do things like duplicate this image if you wanna like have 2 of them for some reason, and then you can mess around with that, send it backwards, send this backwards. Those are the kind of things that are just gonna come with you as you mess with it within the design portion. It's pretty simple to kind of just mess with designs. That could be something, small groups like that. And something I didn't mention earlier that you can continue to do in this, that a lot of churches are doing, is doing something like a QR code, okay? Now I don't have a QR code off top of my head here, but let's say that this is a QR code that we made. You can just drag an actual QR code in here and put it on your announcement slides, and it would be done. If you don't know how to do that, by the way, you can simply just go to Google and go to QR code generator, for example, free QR code generator, enter in whatever kind of link you want, and then it will give you the actual QR code here that you can then download or screenshot. And then what you would do is once you have that QR code screenshotted or downloaded, you go back to your design, you can go to uploads on the left here and actually upload that QR code and drag it right in. So I messed around a little bit. I just resized this to make it fit the landscape a little bit better. And let's say that these are the 3 slides that we want for our announcement slides at church. Once you are done in Canva, whether you're printing a flyer or a connection card or making slides like this, the way that you actually get that finished product onto a computer or usable is that you go to the share icon, which is in the top right-hand corner, click share, and it gives you all sorts of options that you can do. But I'm gonna actually go down here to download, and then it asks me, what do you wanna do, right? You can actually export this as a PNG, a JPEG, a PDF print. That's really good for actually printing off flyers. There's so many different ways that you can actually export this. You can change the sizing if you want. You can make it with a transparent background if you want, if it really is like a PNG that you're trying to get. And when you have multiple pages like this, you can either just select one page to save, or you can select all of them into like one, I believe it's a zip file normally. Another thing to mention is if you do have your branding set up, you can also set up your social media on your Canva account. And then when you go to share here, you can actually go down to share on social, and you'll be able to share it right from Canva. I don't have any of that set up, but as you can see, it asks you what options you want, and you can share directly from Canva if you want. Now, I showed you guys earlier that we had this flyer for the food drive that we transformed into an announcement slide. What if you want to go the other way around? Well, you can actually resize any of your designs or projects rather in Canva itself by going to resize and magic switch. Again, this is only a pro feature, but if I were to go up here and I wanted to turn this worship night's announcement slide into a flyer, for example, I could, or let's say an Instagram post, I could do 1080 by 1080. And that's more of like a square type of post. And then I can go to continue. It will kind of take its time here and it will look, and I have options to either copy and then resize it in case we want to, keep everything the same and not actually screw up this original design. Or I can resize the design, and it's going to resize all of these, as you can see, right? And it'll resize everything. So let's just do resize this design, since I already have a copy of this project that you guys haven't seen yet. And look at that. This is perfect for an Instagram post already. It resized all of the different elements in this design to be a perfect 1080 by 1080 format or dimension. It tried to put this back into 1080 by 1080, which is hilarious. Sometimes you do have to kind of resize things again, but it gets it pretty close and it saves you a lot of time. Even our small groups one, I'd be totally fine with this as an Instagram post and just put, I don't know, maybe a QR code or something here. But that's just to show you how quick and easy it is to resize things in Canva. Now, talking about the elephant in the room here, some people have suggested Canva as a video editor for churches since it's included in your Pro subscription. As a video editor though, I don't feel comfortable suggesting Canva to any churches as a video editor. I find it clunky and a little frustrating even. I just don't think it's a good experience. I would suggest something like CapCut, which is also free, and you can also do both on your phone, an iPad if you have it, but also on a computer. That's the route I would suggest for actual video editing. However, looking at our announcement slides here, I should note that technically, this is still video where you can animate these elements on screen, so it's not just these static images. Maybe you actually want a little bit of visual stimulation to show up. So I can actually drag and highlight all of the elements in this image and then go up to animate here. And then it will give me options on what I want to do for animation. All I have to do is like highlight these and it will actually play out for me. So if I go up to fade here, you'll see it all fade in like that. If I go to blur, it would all blur in like that. Baseline, it just looks a little bit more professional in my opinion. Like that looks pretty good. Pop maybe, worship nights, rise. That seems pretty basic. I think some people would actually be really, really happy with that. So let's just look through these. I kind of like that succession one. Let's do succession. You can actually adjust the speed at which it comes in too. That's kind of nice. And the intensity. Yep, I'm gonna drag that all the way down. And so now I can go up to play here and it'll actually play through, and that's how it would show up on the screens. And I can go down and actually do this for all the different slides, right? If I go down, highlight all of our elements, got to animate. I actually like the same one. Let's just keep that kind of theme going. Drag the intensity down, speed down just a hair. And then we'll do the same thing on our last slide here as well. Animate, succession, speed down, intensity down. And now, since we have that on all of them, I can actually go to this like present icon to watch through them. So this is what it would actually appear on our TV screens within service. This is what it would look like. And you can adjust the amount of time that they stay up. If you're like, that's going way too fast, you can actually adjust that per page as well. It's completely up to you. And again, in order to like export it or download it, you go up to this share icon again. And now you'll notice that when you go to download, for example, since you have those animated elements, this is actually video now and it's gonna download as an MP4, okay? So it's really, really helpful. You can even download the pages as separate files if you want them completely separate, however you have ProPresenter or whatever your presentation software is, however you have that set up. It's really helpful to turn these into animations if you want. So again, I don't recommend Canva as a video editor, but for animations, and that's technically video, I would recommend it. All of the videos I see on Canva are typically just talking about what you can use it for and how easy it is, but nobody really spends much time in the actual designer itself going through what each and every little thing does. And so I really, really hope that that was kind of helpful for you guys today. If you have a specific question, let me know down in the comments. I'll do my best to respond. And if you do want to know what kind of things churches can use Canva for that I didn't cover, you can check out our other video, which is right here. I think right here. Okay, have a good one.